I like to use these words as they are found in the original texts, no? Because, okay, we can a little bit have our own interpretation, but that should be more like an expansion, I think, of a word which is a concept. And a concept is just a matter of definition. The ego might just mean something totally different. It's only having its meaning because of the definition that we are having. And so in Vedic way, ego is Aham-Kara. No? I am that meat. Literally speaking, that is what it means. No? From the word kara actually also comes, for example, the word carnivore. No? So there you see really how literally it is meaning that. So I am that meat is the most essential identification with the physical body. No? So that is the original definition of the ego. But of course, then we know in Vedic science also that there are also more subtle bodies, and that we also there attach and then identify, like when we say I am angry, no? Actually what we are experiencing is an angry feeling coming to us. That does not mean that we are that feeling, but we are still doing this identification game. I am angry, and this we do with everything basically, which we either like or dislike. I am not this or I am that. These are the both forms of the ego. And on a much deeper level, even in the subconscious mind, there now also according to Vedic scripture really lies the source of the ego, the much more principal identification, which is basically the identification with our soul, because our soul is that which travels from one life to another, so it is much more permanent than the physical body or any of the other bodies, or certainly any of the thoughts or feelings that we might have. So there in that subconscious, beyond words, very clearly, there is a kind of feeling which is an attachment, which is the ego. And it is from there that all, you can say, then the manifestation of the ego comes, both, I would say, in positive way and in negative way. Positive way in the sense of, if you're saying, oh, I'm going to play a nice bit of guitar, that is also the ego who is saying it. But we cannot say that that is a negative thing. It's just life. And we need ego for life. I hope that is quite clear from the book. The ego does not exist as a separate entity. Like one could imagine that in the sheets of consciousness we have the physical body, the pranic body, the mental body, and so on, and that at some point we find the ego body. Then the ego would have some kind of existence, but that is not how it is said. The ego is an idea which is then actually a very subconscious idea, more like a feeling kind of idea in the subconscious mind. But it's just an idea. So that is also part of that definition, I think. The ego is doing everything. So the ego is having ice cream, and the ego is having this conversation. And the ego, yes, is exploring the universe, and then also that which is behind the universe, which is the self. And, in that way, it is a vehicle. And one part of the definition, definitely, of the ego is also that the self and the ego, they are very much the same in a way, because they are both the I am. Only the self is the formless I am, so there is no I am that, as there is in the ego, where there is an identification with the form. So you might even go as far as saying that, like, the ego is the manifested self. But that's a little bit sounding sacrilegious because the self is so beautiful and so peaceful and so gentle and whatever you want, while the ego, definitely, it can create lots of trouble. So it's a little difficult to say that, but it is still in practice our tool, of some kind of basic awareness, as the self is a kind of basic awareness, but then attached to this particular form that we have, and knowing very well that, okay, that makes my ego different from your ego, while myself is not different from yourself. So it's a little bit an illusion which is created, but this illusion is very much needed to play the game. And in that way, we cannot imagine manifestation, the whole universe, without ego being there. that, if you start thinking about that we would all be aware of being one and the same and being totally unidentified with this particular body, then how could we live? No? How could we eat? How could we even move? How could we talk? No? So naturally, I think manifestation requires the ego. And that is also why I say it is a natural thing, but it can go, let's say, both ways. And if it goes a little bit the right way, then we can say it is growing towards something which we can call the divine ego, which in India so beautifully is represented by the goddess Radhe. Maybe you have heard, no, Krishna and his beloved Radhe. And Radhe there is symbolizing the divine ego. And, she has an ego. If you look at the stories, she is jealous sometimes, for example. Even very funny, she's jealous of Krishna's flute because he is touching it with his lips, and she feels that is a little bit too much intimate. No? So, very funny, no? The way they present it, but still, she is beautiful. She is everything Krishna wants also. No? And Krishna then representing the self, so they are lovers. The self and ego are lovers. No? So that is a very important understanding. Very beautiful then to accept life, but still try to grow, and make this ego so beautiful, let's say, that we can no longer say there is a difference between ego and self. That is somehow the end game, but okay, the universe is not created only for that reason. The universe is also there for what it is, for the mountains and the flowers and the cake and all these things are also definitely why the universe is there, because the universe cannot be created only to bring us back to cosmic consciousness, the self, or whichever you want to name it, because that's where it comes from. That is also a very important part of the understanding, which in my new book, which I'm working on now, I'm actually much more exploring. How does the universe manifest from the self? But there we first have to understand that the universe cannot manifest from anywhere else. Because if the universe would not manifest from the self, it would, let's say, manifest from itself. And then that would make it an ultimate reality like the self is. But the self is the only ultimate reality. So the manifestation is, we can say, something naturally happening to the self. Like we can say also that if we have an ocean, then naturally waves are there. We are like the waves on the ocean of the self, taking on a form quite temporarily, I would say. Short lives we have, and then boom, moment later, only the ocean is there, the wave is gone. So this is natural, let's say, for an ocean to have waves, and in that way it is natural for the self to have a universe. It's a bit funny to look at it that way, but that is the only logical conclusion, actually, that we can make. And that is also very much the Vedic way to look at it. And then it's a bit confusing, because to find the self, we have to look away from the universe and shut down the senses and go inside. So then many people get this idea, the universe is the problem. But the universe is not the problem. It comes from the self. And you can say that the self has this property. We cannot say that the self had this desire to create the universe or anything. It's just like the waves on the ocean. They just come and we can enjoy them or not. I mean, that's also entirely up to us. But a vehicle, that's a good word, actually. We need it to go somewhere, in this universe. I have to remember that for my next book. Yeah.